we start with you, please?
Hello everybody, my name is Jude Alotaibi. I'm a Saudi artist. I'm an interdisciplinary sculpture artist, but I mostly work with clay. And I've studied abroad most of my life, and it kind of adds to the theme of the work that I've done here during this residency. And yeah.
Okay. Hi everyone, Serbian-born artist. My first love in art is started by falling in love in painting, but now I can say that I am an interdisciplinary artist and really like to play with different medias to try to find the best way to express my ideas, my feelings, and the topics of my projects.
Both of you have come into this residency program from, I suppose, different approaches to practice. I think, Suzana, when you came into the residency, you were really thinking more around the idea of your painting practice, I believe, at the beginning.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we all applied to this residency with certain projects and certain proposals. I had in my mind that I will focus more on paintings, and yeah, I had the idea to work on sound installation and collaborate with other artists in that sense, and I did, and that was one of the most important experiences during the residency, to learn more about other people's experiences and find similarities on my own path. But journey here brought me in position to collaborate with Jude together on her project as well on my project, and I was open for a new experience and for a new place to affect me and to develop my practice in a new sense, which I think as well Jude had that in her own practice, and that is why we connected, that we work like very intuitively, right?
Yeah, that's true. I would say I'm mostly an intuitive artist. A lot of my forms come to me intuitively, but they're very driven on observation from places that I've been, and I wanted a lot of the work that I was doing here to be a grounding practice to my return back to Saudi Arabia. So I did this piece a series called Impressions, and I would take the slabs of clay and imprint them on places that I've been to, and Suzana has joined me in some of these walks that we went and had these impressions taking place. So yeah, there was a lot of collaboration between both of our practices, even though we work in different mediums.
So I suppose in that sense, like, could you? I suppose in that sense, part of the residency program is also a process for you of returning to Saudi and returning to a sense of belonging. And I think that we can see here through the material process that Jude is going through, and Suzana was also a part of, where Jude is taking these pieces of earth, right, clay, and taking an opportunity to walk through the Wadi and walk through natural parts of the region, and then take these beautiful impressions of the land itself. And through that process of materiality, you're also beginning to get a sense of what the land is. You really have to think so clearly about all of the textures and all the grain, all the elements that create the land of Saudi that you're returning to. Maybe could you talk to me a little bit about that process of returning to Saudi and how that's been on your sense of belonging as an artist?
So this work that I've done in this residency differs a lot from the work I've done before, where it was more, in the past I was exploring different forms of ceramics, but here I was more rooted towards the process itself. So after imprinting a lot of these textures and learning about them, I started bringing them into my own intuitive building, which is in my other series of sculptures called Holding Space. And these sculptures have all these textures that I was observing and learning about, and all wanted to recreate them through a lot of forms that have some symbols that I've been observing here back to my return to Saudi, but also a lot of forms that resemble the idea of shelter and vessels that one person can feel connected to in that way. And
I'm going to throw it then to you, Suzana, because I think in your practice as well, this idea of shelter or this idea of belonging at home is actually also kind of the departure point that you came in with, right? That was sort of one of the first topics that you really wanted to explore, and you have continued to explore in the residency, this home idea. What is belonging?
Yes. First, I would like to say that I started exploring this topic in 2024 when I moved to London. And as I said, my practice is very autobiographical, and I'm trying to understand my feelings and myself through my practice. And I had a very vivid dream that year of me sitting alone in a storm, very silent storm, which is like oxymoron, and holding myself as a baby in my arms, and I was countering myself. And then after that dream, the questions of belonging and homes and roots were like rising. I started a series of poems and then paintings, and then first time I collaborated with other artists who were feeling the same. And I think in that moment I realized how important it is to collaborate with other artists, and that synergy that you can exchange with other artists is precious, really.
So how did you two start collaborating then?
Very spontaneously. I think there is no, like, I think, would you like?
Yeah, we both shared a lot of conversations about the idea of belonging and trying to connect to some place, different places that we've been to in our life, try to chase that kind of idea and the themes of our work lately. So a lot of conversations has happened.
Yeah, as you said in the very beginning, like both of us were like traveling a lot, trying to find like home, or through hope and everything, and through art, and I think chasing new opportunities for art itself or something like, and then I think you can find a home in another person, like just because you're aligning.
I think we can all relate to that. I think that's one of the beautiful things about creative communities, and especially a place like Jack's, this creative cluster where we really have got a nice opportunity to find people who are like-minded in that sort of pursuit of deeper understanding of oneself. And I think that's also what's really great about residencies, is you kind of get the opportunity to have 3 months to really investigate it. And along the way you make friends and you get to explore and experiment with journeys. Part of the experimentation and the exploration in both of your practices was this sort of sculptural practice. And I suppose that for those of you out there who have made art before, sculpture is such a tricky thing to do, because what you have in mind is definitely not what you end up making. And I think that for both of you, you've really gone through a process of looking at sourcing material. I think you both had that issue when you first arrived here. You had in mind, okay, I'm going to do this sculptural practice. Where do I get the stuff? And I think that's also a major part of the process within working as artists here in Saudi right now, is we don't have a lot of accessibility to material, having to make do or having to problem solve with what we've got. Maybe would you talk to me a little bit from both your sides how that's been?
I'm actually kind of glad that I struggled with that, because I ended up meeting a lot of people and I had to really like reach out to the community and see, okay, who has a kiln, who can help me fire things, and the ceramic kind of community is also kind of small here, so it was a great opportunity to connect with people, make these friendships and work alongside other artists as well. And yeah, sourcing the materials as well, like learning where to get them, how to find ways to make things happen, and also to accept the process that sometimes, like you said, things don't go your way. And I've had a lot of pieces that didn't go my way, and I learned a lot about the act of acceptance and detachment from making, pick your fight, and especially with ceramics. So there was a lot of learning through the journey itself.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with everything Jude said and everything you, Oli, said. And that returns us to the very beginning of your question, the importance of residency program. And I think myself on my own, I will not be able to deliver this project in this quantity and these results. Definitely, I had beautiful collaboration that came with help through Intermix people with WORTH, the Royal Institute of Traditional Arts, and they connected me with Ahmed, which is sitting here in public. He's a mud architect and artisan. I learned from scratch the mud building technique and mixing the mud. And again, the importance of collaboration in art and not doing everything on your own. I think it's the beauty of residencies, and that is what residency teaches.
I think it's also quite interesting how the materiality of mud, and for some of you who might have been here on the first night, Suzana did a beautiful performance piece as well, and the evidence of that performance is actually just on the other side of this wall, so take an opportunity to go out and have a look inside. Mud and earth, I mean, these are both present in your practices, and for those of you who don't necessarily know the process of ceramics, what Jude was talking to, this idea of finding the kiln being this really hot oven that you fire earth in to then get the quality of a solid, hard ceramic piece, and then you cover it with the glaze that you fire again, and it gives you this beautiful colour. You've had this experience of working with this material that has to go to a high temperature. You, on the other hand, have had to work with the material in its most raw form. Talk to me a little bit about the material of mud and how that felt in working on your piece. And could you remind me the name of the work that you've created here?
I think that's one more common thing in our practice is the joy and love in tactile part of creation and working with material and working with like different textures as well. I mean, like I always like to use my hands, and like here on a slide we can see even like when I paint, I really love to paint with my hands. But working with mud was a completely different experience. I mean, I'm the person who was born in a mountain area in Serbia, so like being in nature and playing in the wood and playing with mud was like part of my childhood. And I think that returned me to my roots, kind of working with this. And title of this project is called "You Will Make Me Out of Mud," which is connected actually again to the Balkan roots. It's a Serbian expression and idiom. And I was inspired by Arabian mud building technique. And the body can be a home to us. That is why I done like a self-portrait. Yeah.
Jude, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, I agree, like, it feels very grounded and rooted to work with such tactile materials, same as ceramics. Like, ceramics can be forgiving and as well not really forgiving. So you learn a lot through that process, and it can be very healing also as well during the process of making it, especially when you're doing repetition again and over, doing the coiling. So there's a lot of slowing down, and same with mud building. There was a lot of slowing down when we were building the piece together.
How did you actually go, just on a more technical note, around the drying of the mud work? Because that's something as well which I think, Jude, you struggled a bit at the beginning with just the climate here, and so something about ceramic is you need to let it dry quite slowly, because if it dries too quickly it cracks, and then when you fire it, the whole work is quite damaged. Did you experience something similar with working with mud?
Well, as I said, we had an amazing getting help with professionals. The whole sculpture is created here in a studio, but the mud mixing process were done on a site, as we can see on the slide. And then, yeah, we brought whole mud here in the studio. There were 11 bags of mud, and we needed to water it. But the whole sculpture will build in like within a few days. And because of the air condition inside, the sculpture didn't dry that fast. But even like the process of like, as I noticed it and learned it, the dryness of the first layers was.
Maybe you can just step us through what this work is about.
The performance was me writing the poem that I wrote here in Riyadh, and it's inspired by my experience here, and as I said, the belonging and the identity. So I was writing the poem first written in Serbian language, and there is a part of a poem that says "Vraćam te zemlji, vraćam se sebi," which is in literal translation said, "I return you to the earth, I return to myself. From mud I will make a home, from mud I will make myself." And while I was doing the sculpture, these words were constantly repeating in my head. And initially, I wanted to do this work in a studio, but the studio was quite small, and I wanted to write on the mud and on the floor directly. But at the end, we ended up working it as a performance. It was quite important for me to do this part as a kind of final piece of the whole. And during the performance, I played the sound of all the voices. As I said, I recorded here during the residency with my mates or the team members who were willing to be really honest and share the deepest, vulnerable experiences. So I think they work really nicely together.
I think that was also one of the really touching elements of this performance piece that Suzana did, where you've got her in front of this unstretched canvas outside, quite starkly lit, and you've got 3 buckets behind you of water and of mud. And from it you're pulling out this mud and writing this poem, and then off from a small speaker at the front you have the voices of people telling their own stories. I mean, I think that part of the wonderful thing about the residency program is the opportunity to share stories and to share this communal space. 12 weeks of really intense programming, including travelling together, sharing meals, sharing hours of working, really helps to build up a sense of camaraderie and community. I'm really conscious though that in 3 days' time it's all going to kind of close up for you. We won't go there because of the tears perhaps, but I maybe just want to circle back into your collaborative practice together, because I think that is something that's so beautiful about this cycle and what has come from your work, and where this sort of leads or transforms the ways in which you think about your practice going forward. Please.
That's true. We were testing some of the slab pieces for the Impressions series, and one of them was me and Suzana literally just putting our prints together, like holding hands and placing these imprints on the clay pieces and seeing how that looks once fired. So there was a lot of, I guess more closer, intimate moments and through the process that we were building. And same with the mud piece, when we were helping each other, there was moments where I felt very like, oh, I'm recreating Suzana in a way. And yeah, that was very interesting, honestly. So, do you want to ask?
And now some part of me or one version of me might stay here in Jax.
I think that's the thing, right? Like you've come also from a painting practice, which can be quite solo, and from a ceramics practice, which can be quite solo. And I think that's something to keep in mind, that as an artist, oftentimes you go into a bit of a void. It's not often that you get to collaborate with others. Oftentimes it's quite meticulous. I mean, I've got Ayana sitting in the front row here, who I know has got, hours of meticulous painting, and other residents who really had to hone their practice over the last 3 months. And so those opportunities to collaborate are really special. And so I think that's also really great, is within this kind of sense of collaboration, you also begin to find your sense of belonging. I'd like to kind of come into that sense of belonging, because I know that this is a topic that's important for both of you, and maybe you could talk us through a little bit further what belonging really means within your practices.
One of the actually questions that Suzana was asking when she was making the recording was about that, and I think I had the most abstract answer compared to some of the answers that were given, because I told her it's always gonna just be something within me with every place that I go. I think you're right that you can find belonging in every place, as long as and even little things, it doesn't have to necessarily be people. Sometimes it's like that one moment that made you feel at peace in a certain place. And I think because of that, I cherish a lot of things in the different places that I go to. And I'll probably experience that in other places and other times in my life as well. So I think belonging is a constantly changing thing, and might as well also be something that, comes and goes, and
That's very true, and one of the things that Jude says during the recordings is that within us there is always a hope that we will find a home. So, and then maybe home is us, and I think that's the always rising questions. And Hanin said one of the most beautiful things is that in one moment you also think about who you're gonna surrender that feeling to. It's not always a thing that it's just inside of you, or like a selfish thing, let's say that way. It's also something that we need to give to others. And speaking about this through art, I think taught me a lot and showed me that I'm not alone in these feelings, and I think that that's a beautiful part. Rising questions. We don't need to always come to the solution and catch that feeling. And also, as Jude says, that moment sometimes comes and goes, and it's just at least if you can find it, a peaceful moment of it, it's, I think, a beautiful thing. It's
And our perceptions of belonging also transform, right? I think that's the other thing, is when both of you came to the residency program, I know that for you, Suzana, you'd never been to Saudi before, but your sense of belonging here within the Saudi community has really shifted, in 3 months. But also for you, Jude, you weren't raised here in Riyadh, and you spent many years outside of the country, and now coming back, you've had to really transform your sense of home and belonging and what it means to be from this place.
I always think it's a little odd to explain to people that although I was born here, and because I moved very young and I only came back last year, I still had to relearn what home is, and I think I always probably will, but I'm proud of the experience that I had, because it kind of shaped who I am, especially as an artist.
Yeah, definitely. I moved as well first time when I was 14 to study art in a different city, and then I was just keep chasing new opportunities in cities, and here I am today. But yeah, one of the things I spoke with Jude and also wrote in one of my poems here is that I felt so many times the moment of deja vu. And I love that feeling, actually. That feeling gave me a sense of okay, I'm on a good path, and then I wrote that that's a sign of a path of belonging. that is a memory of who we are and who we always been. So it's just like settle down with it. I mean, about 3 more days and that's it. Go back.
No, but I think what you're talking about is this like constant transformation, right? And the experiences that you ascertain over time and that you have then really build up your sense of identity and your creative practice. And I think both of you have really been marked by this residency, and I think that we'll see now, following both of your careers going forward, a shift will have taken place because of this. And I think that really speaks also to the importance of residencies, you know, an opportunity to take time to really invest into yourself, to invest into your practice, to make new connections and shift the way in which you perceive yourself and other cultures and other people. So I think there's something really transformative about what Intermix has really brought for both of you. I wanted to open it up to our lovely audience to see if anyone has any questions or any comments they wanted to put to either of you.
Thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. It's nice to listen to you all. And I think it's the belonging is such a prominent topic for all artists because we're continuously moving from one place to another. And just to see how you find the universal sense of belonging, which relates to every single person who is looking at it. And it's beautiful how you're getting to the earth because that's the ultimate belonging, which rests beneath the layer of culture and borders. And this is what we all are made of, basically from, you know, water and minerals. So, therefore, I wanted to ask you, what does this "you will make me out of mud" means in the context of Serbian culture?
Yeah, I remember your interview as well. You said it's above our hand and under our feet. That is where we should supposed to feel belonging as well. Like, and that's true. Like in the earth and where we stand. It's a funny Serbian idiom. It's an expression that comes from like very melodramatic moment that it's usually said in a sense of like that. For example, I can say to you like, "You will miss me that much that you will recreate me out of mud." So I use that Serbian idiom to switch it into this topics that I'm exploring of and put it in a sense of constant recreation of identity and recreation of self and a need to build a home. So that's why I built a self-portrait in a sense. And we use very traditional mud building technique, how homes are made. So it's a body and it's a home.
So nice, because I think then when we look at Jude, these sort of non-functional objects that also holding space, right? You've really got a spatial awareness in the forms. And for those of you who haven't made it through the residency yet, I really encourage you to make sure you go check out both of these studios to really see the works, because I think that when we talk about ceramics, and especially within the peninsula at the moment, oftentimes ceramics are thought of as quite functional objects, right? There's an idea that it's a vase or it's a plate or it's a cup. But what you're doing here is you're also pushing against that sense of it having to have a function. It's actually a sculptural work, and it's actually it is a body that you've created with these works.
I'm allowing them to exist. I always think of it that way, especially because I work intuitively when I'm hand building. So once the form is there and it becomes its own thing, I kind of just allow it to exist in its own way and bring it here to a space where it can belong somewhere as well. And same with my ceramics, like they never always end up with me actually. They've been in places with my friends and different across the world, so they're always belonging somewhere else as well.
The one thing I think that also connected us is that we both kind of approach our art through abstract forms, but both of our art are very intimate, and that how Jude treats her clay, it's a transfer of energy, it's a transfer of emotions. So I think, yeah, clay is a living thing, right? It's earth, and I think it's something that everybody should pay attention to when they look at work.
I wanted to see if we had any more questions. No one else? I'll keep asking then. So, I want to come back a little bit into this process of actually making the mud for you, Suzana, because I'm conscious that this took a while to get here. I know that it took a few weeks to find the right people to work with you. Could you talk us a little bit around that process of finding the right people to work with and how that went for you?
I will just quote Jude, and that's trust the process. Yeah, it was a patient process. So we first visited Riyadh as just like a field trip, let's say like that, and I get myself familiar with their workshops and everything. And then when the project started building and I expressed desire to work on a sculpture, Intermix team said that they will connect me with Royal Institute of Traditional Arts and find me the artist. But the process took like such a long time, and of course, like Jude and everybody else tried to find persons around like who can help, who knows how to do this traditional technique that it's like well-spoken, like secret and well-known secret, right? So everybody knows, everybody's familiar, but nobody knows. And it was like a long process of waiting, but once we find the right person, it was easy process, to be honest. Yeah, just trust the process.
Yeah, I feel like that's with everything, right? Like I think that's a global phenomenon when you arrive in a new place and you're trying to work out who has the information, and everyone, I think I know something, you know, it's close. But yeah, it's that idea of having to trust the process. You have to go through the waiting and go through the false starts and the false leads till eventually you arrive at the right place. And sometimes I like to think it happened just at the right time, you know. And I think that's same for you as well, Jude. Like there was also a process of having to find the community of ceramicists who had kilns, who also knew how to get clay, get these sort of materials together to then go through the process. And firing ceramics, you put things into an oven of 1,000 degrees and you hope they survive. And so you had a few accidents as well. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, actually, I would like to thank Budur because she helped me a lot with the firing process. She's another ceramics artist that I've been working alongside. But yeah, I also had to trust the process a lot. There were, drying conditions of clay sometimes are unpredictable, and especially even with hand making, it can be unpredictable as well. You didn't wedge it hard enough, there's a bubble, and then you put it in the kiln and it explodes. So, like I said, I really learned the art of detachment, and so I trusted the process. And you're right, it happens for a reason. Sometimes things were meant to work the way they did, and I feel very grateful for the opportunity to connect to the people that have helped throughout it.
I think we're going to close up there. I'd love to thank you all in the audience for joining us for this talk tonight. I'd love to thank our Jude and Suzana. I believe that this is the final public program.
I just want to thank Rini as well, my mentor. I mentioned a lot the collaboration around, and of course the Intermix team. And I mentioned everybody that she was as well one of the trust process people.
I believe that this is the final public program for the residency. Thank you again, everyone. Please.